Today, we have the pleasure of welcoming Dr. Amanda Froehlich Chow, who's a faculty member in the School of Public Health at the University of Saskatchewan, and presenting alongside her, Amanda Gannon, PhD student in the School of Public Health, also at the University of Saskatchewan, and a lecturer at First Nations University. Welcome both.
Shared already. The goal of ATOHTITAM is to journey together, braiding Indigenous teachings about sexuality, gender roles, and responsibilities with the Western knowledges, largely of STBBIs. We also explore HCV and HIV as well through a co-creation and culturally rooted initiative that aims to promote sexual health, gender reawakening, self-confidence, and overall holistic wellness among Indigenous youth in Saskatchewan. And when we say Indigenous, we have worked primarily with diverse First Nations communities in Saskatchewan and Métis communities. So this video I'm going to share, and I hope this sounds okay. This video was created by our ATOHTITAM artist who created both our logo and imagery that we will use within our bundles. But it's from, her name is Jade, and she'll share who she is in the video, but it's from as she was creating our logo and sort of the story of ATOHTITAM alongside of it. Aside us, it's kind of her perspective as she went through the journey of creation. So here we go. I hope it works.
Kansai, my name is Jade Roberts. I'm a Woodland Cree artist and educator from Treaty 6 and a member of the Latharange Indian Band. I'm the creator of the artwork for the ATOHTITAM project. There are two designs that accompany one another and they'll be associated with this project. These pieces were highly collaborative and brought to life through a team effort of everyone involved in the project. I'd like to share my thoughts and inspiration behind some of the elements in each of the designs. In this first piece, you'll see two humans across from one another with water and a sunset separating them. You'll also see the heart symbol in the center and a line connecting the two humans near their heads. This image depicts how I interpret knowledge transfer among different people or different groups of people. Although the two people are separated, they're still connected through their sharing of ideas and mutual love for what it is they're working towards. In most of my pieces, I like to include a circle in some way. This symbol is common in Indigenous cultures and is important to Cree people for many reasons. You'll notice around the circle the four sacred plant medicines, symbolizing growth and connection to Earth's natural cycles, which is also connected to our second design. For this second piece, we have used the four stages of the project in relation to a common medicine wheel framework. The four stages include gathering, which is represented by sage, tobacco, and the sun. This is a time to gather resources, ideas, and have conversations. The second is growing, which is represented by cedar, sweetgrass, and the moon. This is a time to grow the project ideas and reflect on the conversations, working towards growing the overall project. The third is preparing, which is represented by a singular person. This is a time to prepare ourselves as individuals after gaining a lot of knowledge, preparing this knowledge and getting ready for the next steps to move forward. And lastly is sharing. This is represented by two people, and it's a time for us to go into community and share and learn from one another.
Okay, so that through Jade's eyes is really the journey of ATOHTITAM, and that is the journey we have followed so far. So I'll share with you now sort of where we've come from and where we are. So we shared about phase one, and that was really the story gathering phase. And I will share with you the various groups that and individuals we spoke with. And then phase two and three, after we gathered our stories, that was our preparing and our growing. We did a lot of personal work. The team attended conferences, spent a lot of time with their family in community, really understanding and sharing. It was very emotional work. The team calls it heavy heart work. And I can tell you every time we come together over a meal and to reflect and go through, which you know might from the research lens be called the th sort of analysis process, but really it's a coming together and it's really being sessions of healing. There's always tears and there's always laughter. And then phase 4 is the sharing of our medicines. After we sort of gathered and prepared our bundles, then we're moving into our sharing phase. So that's a bit of an overview, and I'm going to take a bit of a deeper dive for you now. When we began this work, we started, as many in the research world will know, with a grant and an idea. And that came about largely through the support of WANISCA and the Powasasquan Research Center, which I think I saw Malcolm and Alexandra here today, led by Alexandra and Malcolm. And essentially Alexandra came to me and asked, you know, there's this project, CIHR project grant. We have some ideas. Would you be interested in leading it? And I was, of course, honored, but also very scared because it was a little bit out of my wheelhouse. I never put in, I was, you know, I was in just been a year in my faculty position. And so, yeah, I was nervous which I should have shared at the beginning, my most important role is a mom, and I'm a mom of 4. My youngest is 6 as well. Time goes so fast, and my oldest is 13. And so I have a son and 3 daughters. And this work was near and dear to my heart, and I knew there was a need, and I was, you know, really excited to be able to perhaps help in this journey. So I agreed, and you can see here our ATOHTITAM project team is below. So a number of amazing, beautiful community members, researchers, and then once we received the grant, we expanded our team to our community-based core team is who we call them. And those are the individuals that are actually, they are on the ground, they are gathering story, they created the bundles. And our team's led by Elder Kathy Wapepa, our Indigenous teacher lead Candace Gadwa, and the music you heard in the previous video was Candace and her sister group singing. And then Tammy Jerome, and we have a picture of Tammy and Kathy on the side here. And then a whole list of teachers. So Charlene McNairn, she is an ally. She works in a core school in Saskatoon. We have an Indigenous teacher, Shaylin Fox. He's our male lead and is incredible. He leads a men's warriors group, and we've woven together a lot of that work. Danielle Jerome, she is an ally, and she works with grades 6 to 9. Alicia Monroe Sutherland is an Indigenous land-based teacher at Beardy's First Nation, and she has done a lot of the bundle work as well. And then some students as well, all who are core to this work. And I'll highlight at the end Amanda Gannon, who is one of our student team members, and you'll hear more about her work. So we really began our work in 2022, and we started in ceremony. We wanted to come together in a good way, and we began with first a pipe ceremony, and then many meetings, many meals and meetings, finding our strengths as a team. The ethics journey with the university, which took us a year, and a lot of persistence. We wanted to gather story, of course, from youth of all ages, but there we struggled, and we agreed finally at age 18 and up. But it was, yeah, we found some ways around it, but that was a bit of a journey. And Elder Kathy at one point said, if I need to come down to that ethics table, just tell me and I'll be there. So we were getting frustrated, but we figured it out. Then in our preparation, we attended conference. Candace took her daughter and spent a lot of time in conference, community-led conference, gathering knowledge. It was really quite a beautiful journey. So then we held a second ceremony because we decided we needed a community guiding circle from various voices from various walks of life across the province. So although we had our core team, we decided to come together and gather a guiding circle with a number of just beautiful individuals. And so that ceremony we had a female pipe carrier, which was our elder Kathy, her daughter, Tim and Kathy. Kathy's husband is Tim right here, and that was her daughter, and she held the ceremony for us, and her sons both joined and they drummed, and it was just a beautiful, beautiful gathering. And so after that is when we really began our story gathering, and we had questions that we wanted to explore, but we also wanted just stories to come and flow in freely from various different voices. So we started with older youth that had come back to school to finish their grade 12. And that's where we started gathering. I'm going to attempt now to share a bit of a background on this, where Kathy shares it so beautifully with a group of teachers we are working alongside.
Yeah, we're really lucky because we have people who are supporting us and helping us to do this. Because when we started, our first process is consultation, and we call that gathering. So we're like gathering the medicines. And one of the things that happens when you gather medicines is you're gathering them, but you're not taking all of them. You just take the ones that you need. And what you leave behind, and even in the process of gathering, you're shaking some seeds off, and those seeds are growing. So at once you're taking and you're also giving back. And those seeds began to grow probably even by the end of when we were done gathering. So we started that process, and in that process that meant to us consultation. So as an Indigenous person, we have this weird kind of relationship with consultation. So there's like consultation with the government, which doesn't always happen, and also doesn't always get us what we want or need. I feel like the government thinks consultation means we'll ask them and we'll write down that we asked them, but then we'll do what we want to do. So we didn't want consultation to be like that. So we assured ourselves we would listen. But the university has kind of like a way that they do it. And you have to plan ahead and say, this is what we're going to ask. This is how long it will take. And then we came back by saying, no, we don't know how long it'll take. We have to build trust. We have to get to know these people. And we don't know what questions until we talk to them. And so Amanda was very brave with Louise's support also to go back to the university. And I don't know how she said it. They don't know what they want to ask. They don't know how long it's going to take. But she was able to create a plan with the university so we could do this in that way.
So that's what we did. It was very iterative. We started with one group of older youth, and we had a few questions, but we didn't start with those. We began with a culture camp, and then throughout the day, we sort of explored the questions as they came forward. And so these are pictures of the youth at the culture camp creating and sharing.
Yeah.
And I have to say, the youth were so engaged. They wanted to lead this. They wanted their stories shared. They felt that there was such a need, and we had some recorders where they could share thoughts, and they said, "Can we take these home? We have so much more to share." So they take the recorders home and send them back with all the things they felt that needed to be in the bundles. We then went on to carry the Kettle First Nation, and we gathered with a number of mums and their youth. And we had a group with the mums, which was very powerful. Kathy led that group. It was quite emotional. There was a lot going on in the community, and it was quite a journey. And then we spoke with the youth, and they too were quiet to start. Here's Candace working with them. But then as the day went on, they started sharing and opening up and became very excited. We also sat with SUNTEP and ITEP students. So these are students at the university that are in Indigenous streams of education, and they are becoming teachers. And many of them fully intend to go back to their communities once they receive their degrees and work in schools in their communities. And so we spoke with them about things that they thought were needed, what they experienced, and what they would feel comfortable sharing when they did go back to the schools. And this was a really interesting conversations as well. Some were scared. Some were scared. They said, "We these bundles, we know where they're needed, but I don't know how, the principal would receive them. I don't know, sort of if I could do this." So there was some apprehension, but also a strong voice of need. We then went into back to Candace's home community in Kuehin, and that's in Alberta. And we attended the men's conference there. So Shaylin led a lot of this work, and this was powerful. The men in this group said things like, "Our community's waiting for this. Our boys need this," and so because off. We'd had probably a stronger voice, female voice in the ITEP and SUNTEP, but here it was quite a strong male voice, and it was quite beautiful. And they then invited us back to their women's conference. We also went to North Battleford and had a sharing circle with teachers in North Battleford. And we talked about what patterns in relationships are they seeing among the youth in their classrooms. And what their comfort level again would be. And again, it was quite beautiful, all the things that were shared and just the commitment of the teachers and the heart of the teachers that they wanted their youth to be well. Then we thought, this is a health, there's a lot of health linkages, and we probably should gather a story from those in the health community. And so we spoke with nurses that were doing their practicum. And again, the stories shared here were quite powerful. One, they didn't feel comfortable teaching or leading programming in this area. They didn't feel as though they were prepared or they could do it in a good way. And then secondly, they worried about the political atmosphere, because if you know, in Saskatchewan a couple of years ago, right when actually ATOHTITAM began, there was a bill passed that no outside organizations' resources could be brought into schools around sexual health and wellness. This was brought in by the government of Saskatchewan, and so there's actually people are scared to really, we're hearing they're scared, very sadly, to work in this area, support youth in this area. We then went to Poundmaker First Nation to do a workshop with 18-year-old youth, and participants engaged in various activities from the culture camp activities Candace had created in our original sharing circle and gathering with youth. And we felt it came so loud and clear that the youth in Poundmaker were strong leaders. They wanted to share. They were rich with sort of wisdom and insight and lived experience. We felt well beyond their years. And so we are quite excited to go back to all the communities, but to work with the youth in Poundmaker when our bundles are ready. And then we said, hey, we're missing a piece. Another piece we're missing is the land base, because a core to this work, we wanted it to be surrounded with land base, relationality, connectedness. So we gathered land-based teachers. They weren't all Indigenous, but they worked alongside Indigenous teachers. Many were, and they painted beautiful pictures of sort of numerous benefits and linkages of how land-based could link into our bundles. So we're coming from originally starting from a place of sexual health and wellness, and now we've journeyed through sort of teachings around relationality, connectedness, relationships, communication, and we're now at the space of tying in how can land be woven into each of these aspects. So it was kind of a really nice kind of full circle piece. It was quite beautiful, some of the ideas that we heard and stories that were shared. Then sort of what is our I shared about our PhD students and some of the work ongoing with our PhD students and what they're doing. And so one was gathering story of those with lived experience. And Sandy Kassir is working and has been for 2 years now with community partners with lived experience. And this and it was at the end of COVID she began. And so it has been quite a journey for her, but she is at the point where the the depth of relationships she has created with those with lived experience. She's been invited to celebrations of life. She's had a mom and a son who was released from incarceration, and the mom said, "You've got to come and join me and share your story." So they're coming. They want their story heard. We have some of those with lived experience. They are in contacting Sandy once a week. How can we sit down to work on analysis? They are working together not only on story gathering but analysis. APSS would, they're having a sweater drive at one point or a pizza party to celebrate. Hey, Sandy, do you want to join us? And also, could you help us with picking up some of our guests along the way? And so she, goes and gathers them, and she attends, is invited to all kinds of celebrations. So the relationship is much more than what it started out, and it's been a beautiful journey. And she's just in the process of preparing sort of for sharing out all the stories that were shared with her. We also have Katie Tolley and Métis Nation Saskatchewan's a partner on the project, and Katie is a PhD student working with me, and she also works at Métis Nation, and so she is working on gathering Métis specific narrative, but also she will work on sharing the bundles within the Métis community, and she's doing a policy analysis of the impacts of this new policy the government has passed around sort of sharing sexual health and wellness resources in schools, and she's speak from a Métis lens, and so she's just kind of in the midst of this work. So that's kind of another arm of the project. So then, as we journeyed into the phase 2 and 3 after gathering our stories, we spend a lot of time, as I said, the team going to conferences, bringing their family to the conferences, Candace has spent so much time going back to her mom and her aunties and her cousins, really saying, this is what I'm hearing when I'm holding the culture camps, when we're going into community and helping sort of process this and as you analyze kind of what we were hearing and how we can bring that in to inform the creation of the bundles. And that took a good year. We originally thought we would sit down as a group and listen to all of the interviews and stories, but it was so emotional. Candace, Shaylin, Alicia, they almost found it too much to rehear all the stories, so they had to bring in their family and supports to go through this to inform the bundle creation. That's where we came up with this heavy heart work. It was although it's been incredibly healing, it's been quite an emotional journey. And it's impacted them in their family relationships, and a lot of changes come out of this. So we knew it would be a journey, but it was probably even more emotional than we anticipated. And so just as we wanted to bring some sort of little nuggets from all the stories that were shared and the pieces that have gone into these bundles. And so these are some quotes, and so I won't share all of them because I want to be respectful of time, but some of the things that have come out. This is about reclaiming of identity and traditional ways of being. And the term that one women's group came up with was rematriation, they're calling this. Another quote, helping to create dreamers who are thriving rather than surviving. This is what they feel will come out of ATOHTITAM. Not only life-changing, but life-saving resource. And then the one that I've shared already from the Kuwaitan community, there are people waiting for this in our communities. So these are quotes that were shared on our journey of gathering. And so this is just our scribble, one of our gatherings, sitting around a meal at one of the team. We always come together in someone's house. We always come together in someone's house, we have a meal, and then we get to work. And so here is the creation, one of the early creations of our bundles after we're sort of done listening to all of the stories, and we had sort of poured our heart in to understand what the bundles needed to represent. Remembering, we thought we were going to be talking all about sex and safe sex, but what we heard was before we can even get there, it's all about the relationships and healing relationship, identity, knowing who you are, where you come from, and healing that. Reawakening of gender exploration, communication. How do you communicate? And so we have then created these bundles that will feed into the overall sexual health and overall wellness. And there are essentially culture camps within each of these bundles and resources and activities that Shaylin, Candace, Danielle, Alicia have all worked with their communities and the stories gathered to create. And so this was really the preparing phase of our ATOHTITAM project. And we are just wrapping that up, and we are getting prepared to pilot and then share the bundles. And so here is a little screenshot of our relationship bundle on the side, just a couple pages of it. And so what we wanted to first do before we rolled into the full piloting or sharing, we picked a few small groups of teachers within First in Saskatoon, because we're going out to all the communities we shared story to. We're going back and we're sharing the bundles, and we're wanting them to tailor the bundles. And as you'll hear Kathy say, I hope you can hear in this video, fill the bundles with all their teachings. But before we did that, we just wanted teachers to sit with them and try out pieces of the bundles within their classrooms just to make sure they felt okay. So this is here Kathy sharing with those teachers around what we hope they do when they work through the bundles. So I hope you can hear.
Respect, responsibility, and recognition were some of the things that they asked for. And some of the other things that they asked for was to come back. They asked for help. They asked that we would make it so that young people can learn this, because and this is what one person said, it's the young people who will change our communities. And so we've continued to try to keep it in that vein, that it'll be a resource that will be presented by facilitators, but it's for young people. There were so many of the participants who said, you know, I wish somebody had done this for me. And so we're trying to fulfill that wish. When we get down to the point of, and we have a version of the resource, but we want to refine it to a really efficient and effective level. So when we get down to that, we also said we wanted to make a resource that is not uniform. It's not the same for every group. So I'm really happy we have really diverse groups of people who will be trying out the resource. We're not going to just tell you how to do it. We're not going to tell you, we're not going to help you. You're on your own. No, it's not like that. We're not going to tell you exactly how you have to do it, because we're going to depend on you to infuse your own creativity and your own capabilities and your strengths into it. But we do want to walk along with you. We want to walk along beside you and give you help if you need help in any way, but also maybe get some of your strength and your smart things that you know from you along the way. Again, that reciprocity where you're not walking by yourself. Now you'll be walking with us, with you the whole time. When we're talking about resources that are based in Indigenous knowledge, sometimes we hear that, well, how can I do that? I'm not an Indigenous person. I think that maybe you can picture it like you came to live with me in my house, right? And I was like a grandmother to you. And so you have begun to learn a lot of things from me. Maybe that would even change how you do things, but you would remain still yourself. So it's really important that you're able to share the Indigenous knowledge parts of it. Because if I tried to go to every school and do this, I'll fail. I can't do it. So you have to do it. I know you're not Indigenous people, some of you, but if we rely on only Indigenous people to teach this, then we have just a tiny, tiny little segment of teachers. We need all teachers to share it. And remember, you're living in my house, so I want you to do it. And as a learner of Indigenous knowledge, you are just going to start where you're at. And if you feel like you know nothing, then that's your starting place. That gives us a big basket. We can fill it all up with lots. And the most important part about that is your intention, that you will intentionally try to do it. That's the most important part. Not that you'll do it perfectly, or that you'll learn the language in a year, or anything unreasonable, that you will, with intention, use Indigenous knowledge as part of this resource. And if anybody says, you're not doing that right, then you can say, or maybe they'll even say, yeah, it's supposed to be doing that, we're not Indigenous. And you say, well, I'll do that instead. And have them come see you. So our intention is that the resource supports critical thinking, using knowledge gained to understand healthy relationships. So we all know that where we gain knowledge like that is not always from the healthiest sources right now. We talk to a lot of young people who are getting knowledge from each other. Okay. But we would love to see them learning at an earlier age. We'd love to see it coming from within their community, and that they're in a comfortable place when they're receiving these teachings, and that it would be available through a variety of media and formats.
So that's what our hope is as we move through the pilots. And as Kathy shared, we want it to be shared in various ways. And what the final format is in media, we don't know yet, but we are confident as the youth receive the bundles in their initial sort of state, they will tell us what they would like and what it would look like and how it would work for them. And so as we move into this next phase in the fall, we will go back to all the communities I shared with you where we gathered story because they are waiting. And we will come back and we will share the bundles that we have created so far. And then we have other communities that are interested, some in schools, some in community centers. We've talked about working alongside the IYS home base, so that's a vision of ours. And Amanda, I'm going to pass it over to Amanda Gannon, and she is going to be working with one community organization in particular, and she has relationship with this organization. She started that journey. So over to you, Amanda, and I can move the slides. Just let me know. I'll try move them for you.
That sounds good. Thank you.